Folks, welcome back to World Cup Daily here at Talkin' Soccer. I am your host, Justin Hornick, and we had another fantastic overnight of just exhilarating soccer. You had the Netherlands really dominating Portugal despite the 1-0 scoreline. You had Jamaica frustrating France to a 0-0 draw, and you had Sweden ruining South Africa's good time. Let's just throw that out there, winning 2-1 after going down 1-0 to a South Africa team that scored their first ever World Cup goal. It was a match day of these kind of heavyweights in the football world against these kind of upstart teams. And as we are going to see more and more as this World Cup goes on, these teams that are lower in the FIFA rankings can stand in there and frustrate the teams that are, thought to be the tournament favorites. It's going to get like that more and more as funding flows into women's soccer. And while a lot of programs are still underfunded, I mean, Jamaica is kind of the exception that proves the rule in this, but as federations are kind of forced to pay their women more, as they are forced to just take things more seriously, you're going to see more and more of these kind of smaller federations able to put up with these larger teams. And frankly, it's good for the sport to have this kind of competitive balance and, the parity in the league with just how many athletes these countries have that they can put together a team as long as they're well organized can shock a team that has maybe looked past them. I mean, you look at maybe that's, part of the story with what happened between France and Jamaica, but Jamaica were able to hang with France the entire match. And it was a frantic pace. The pace of this match, frankly, was exhilarating as I was falling asleep on the couch. It kept me awake, and that is something that is very important as I get used to these overnight games. It's not often that you see that partnership of Diane and Le Sommer not put anything in the back of the net. And frankly, Diana didn't have a great night. Le Sommer did some more things, kind of linking play between the midfield and the attack that make things look a little bit better in her stat line. She was also a little bit better on the press, and you can't really say when you're a striker, your job is to score, but if you're doing other things in the play as well, you can at least talk about that. For Jamaica, of course, the story is Bunny Shaw, and she'll miss the game against Panama, which is a travesty from a soccer perspective, because I think the more you see Bunny Shaw, the more of a joy it's going to be for this tournament. But that's hard. Missing out on your top scorer against a Panama team that has also had some decent play in the run-up to this competition, and they're going to need to find a way to put a ball into the back of the net. Because as things stand, this draw against France potentially could put them on the right foot. If they are to get a win against Panama, they could be looking at a situation where Jamaica is going into the final match day, and maybe if they can get a draw against Brazil, maybe if Brazil can just run over France, that they could be looking at moving on to the knockouts. That's a lot of presumptions to make after one match, but I liked a lot of what I saw from Jamaica here. Jamaica have some top talent in top leagues throughout the world. Obviously, Bunny Shaw playing for Manchester City and being kind of their talismanic striker in the same role that she is with Jamaica. It's interesting to see this team do this against a French squad that's, coached by someone that is such a legend in the international coaching ranks for, getting more out of his teams in Hervé Renard. So I think all the credit needs to go to Jamaica for how this match went. I know there's a lot of talk about France not showing up, but I think this performance says more about Jamaica than it does about France, quite frankly. And every team in the world has bad performances. I'm a US fan. I know that it happens from time to time, but you have to give credit when teams are able to, stifle the offense, stifle the attack in such a way that Jamaica were able to. They still outshot by France, but Khadijah Shaw, Bunny Shaw had a moment a couple of moments where she was inches away from putting Jamaica on top, and that's a warning shot to the rest of the world. So let's move on from France and Jamaica. Let's talk a bit about South Africa and Sweden before we dive into the Netherlands, their performance over Portugal, and what that means for the U.S. for their match on Wednesday. Sweden and South Africa, this was an interesting match too. South Africa doing a good job of playing real counter-attack soccer. So Sweden had about 70% of possession in this match, and if you look at the momentum graph, Sweden have all of the momentum, South Africa barely have any. But if you look at the kind of shots to, big chance ratio, South Africa were in it for the most part, and they rarely had Sweden under constant pressure, but they had 4 shots on goal to Sweden's 6 shots on goal, and they scored the first goal 48 minutes into this match to go up 1-0 on Sweden. And from there, quite frankly, Sweden decided to hate fun. They came back, they pulled it even, they pulled ahead with a just phenomenal goal from Amanda Ilestedt, and Sweden looked good. It was kind of their wake-up call in the first half to have South Africa can be able to take what they could throw at them, and that's what good counterattacking soccer is you absorb all of this pressure, you let this team get overconfident in their possession, and then you're able to spring the other way in these quick counterattacks that lead to goals because you've caught the defense out of shape, or you've caught the defense out sleeping, so to speak. And South Africa did that very well. And they've shown that they can stick with these higher caliber teams. Now, if they're in a game where they don't necessarily have to bunker as much, maybe that's a different story, but they executed the game plan really well. And it's a case of Sweden being used to the pressure cooker that is the World Cup, and South Africa needing that experience. They scored their first ever Women's World Cup goal here, and that kind of tells the story, right? It's experience against inexperience. South Africa scored that first goal, and Sweden are able to kind of find what it takes to claw back that match. So Sweden win 2-1. They hate fun. Let's move on to the Netherlands 1-0 win over Portugal. And that 1-0 scoreline is maybe a bit flattering to Portugal, as the Netherlands had a very controlling performance. Portugal had 0 shots on goal through the first half and only managed 2 shots in general over the course of this match. So it was very much a Netherlands dominating this matchup, especially through the midfield. They get their first goal in the 13th minute off a corner attempt that Stephanie van der Graat is just able to rise above, put it, goes to the far corner. She rises above. Everyone is able to kind of put it into the opposite corner. There's initially a VAR check because the Netherlands players were in an offside position off of the shot, but it didn't touch any of them. They were ruled not to interfere. Netherlands go up 1-0. That's the tale of the game. So if you're looking at this from a U.S. women's national team perspective, if you look at the Netherlands' performance against a team in Portugal, it's better than Vietnam, ideally. You're looking at a team that doesn't have an informed striker at this moment. If you look at the Netherlands' chances and their inability to put a ball into the back of the net outside of their center back, it's maybe encouraging if you're the U.S. looking ahead. If you're thinking, I'll take Sophia Smith, Alex Morgan, and Trinity Rodman over a front line that didn't score, that had trouble really generating grade A opportunities. I think if you're the U.S., you're maybe looking at that a little favorably. Now, looking ahead to that game on Wednesday, you have to hope that the U.S. have learned a bit from that Germany match, from the trouble they had against Spain, from that England match that they lost last year. They've been on a 10-game winning streak since that point. They've been very defensively sound since that point. So it's hard to kind of broadcast forward on both of these matches where, the Netherlands and the U.S. just sucking in all of the possession. It's going to have to be a slightly different look from the U.S. And is a backline of Julia Ertz and Naomi Girma enough defensively to be able to stop what the Netherlands are going to be able to bring at you and how they're going to be able to control the midfield, especially if Rose Lavelle isn't quite ready to go the full 90 yet or the full 75 yet or whatever have you. It's an interesting thought experiment. I still think the U.S. are the better team. Obviously, I'm a homer, whatever, but I think they will surprise people with how they approach this match. You're banking on Vlatko Andonovski learning a bit in his setup and the players as well learning a bit in their setup. But I think this is kind of written for especially Trinity Rodman and Sophia Smith to kind of take this team over. And in both of their first World Cups, you know, someone has to kind of be that star, especially if Alex Morgan is going to not be quite as effective as she once was, especially if Megan Rapinoe is going to be not quite as effective as she once was. You need those new stars to step up, and so far they have, and that's going to force us to kind of recalibrate where we're at in our mentality around this team. So, with that being said, hope you all enjoyed the night of matches last night. Hoping for another overnight of great matches tonight. I'll also have something going up on the channel about the Leagues Cup on the men's side. Of course, the Leagues Cup has also been fantastic with Messi's return and just some phenomenal games between MLS and Liga MX's opponents so far. And even some of the MLS specific games have been great too. So let me know what you thought about these performances in the comments below. Specifically what you thought of the Jamaican national team and if you think they have a chance to make it out of the group now, or if missing Bunny Shaw for the Panama match is going to be too much to overcome. If this is your first time seeing these videos, I'm going to be putting out daily videos throughout the Women's World Cup and plus some extra content along the way as I want to find some time to talk about some other topics that have been on my mind. So it's not just a deluge of women's soccer coming at you. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and like I said, I'm putting out videos daily, so hit that notification button if you will. But we'll talk very soon, everybody.